From the CNN Center. Hi, John.
Good evening, Charles. On the eve of the U.S. midterm elections, just about everything looks political. And several jointly owned newspapers with readers in the military ran editorials Monday calling for the resignation of the Defense Secretary, Donald Rumsfeld. The Army Times, the Navy Times, the Marine Corps Times, and the Air Force Times all say that soldiers are bearing the brunt of what it calls his failures. Soldiers and their families aren't just voting in this election or reading the newspaper. Dozens of veterans are running in the vote. By one count, about 100 of them in all. The number has actually dropped over the past 4 decades. Since 1960, the percentage of veterans in Congress is actually down by more than 50%. But the war in Iraq seems to have changed that. Analysts say this year's pool of candidates includes the largest number of men and women who've served in the U.S. military since the World War II generation. We have 2 veterans of the Iraq War with us now. They're not running for office, but they have some opinions for those who do. Wade Zirkle served 2 tours in Iraq as a Marine lieutenant. He supports the president's plan in Iraq and is now executive director of Vets for Freedom. We also want to welcome Abdul Henderson. He served as a corporal and is now a member of a very different group, Veterans Against the War. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us. Abdul Henderson, can we start with you? What are the vets you know saying about the war and this election?
Well, the vets that I know that are talking about the war, they're concerned about their futures. You know, the Republican-controlled Congress has basically denied them basic rights. There's a GI Bill for the 21st century that's currently in the House right now that's been sitting there for over a year now. This bill would basically expand veterans' health care. It would expand veterans' benefits when it comes to the Montgomery GI Bill, and it expand the reserve and active duty TRICARE system.
So let me jump in on that thought. They're thinking about themselves and the important issues that surround their own lives as veterans. They're not necessarily voting on the conduct of the war itself?
Well, some veterans are. A lot of veterans I know are not pleased with the way the course of the war is going. A lot of veterans want this war to end, and I believe they're going to be voting for Democrats this session because they want fundamental answers to questions.
Let me jump in on that thought and ask Wade Zirkle about the people he's talking to.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the veterans of this war want to win, and we want a strategy that's going to take us to victory. This is a very tough fight, and I've been to Iraq 3 times. I was badly wounded by a suicide car bomber, and these veterans issues are very near and dear to my heart. But I think our security, our national security down the road is very important to us. But I think it's also important to point out that 110 congressional Democrats voted to authorize military action in Iraq. And now all of a sudden they're pointing fingers and they're refusing to take responsibility. So I think it's important to remember that and also understand that we need to figure out how to win this together, and the politics of partisanship are not going to get us there.
On that very thought, let me ask both of you if you have any clear indication of what would happen if there is a setback, as we're expecting, to the Republicans and the Democrats take control of the House or maybe even the Senate. Do you think the Democrats are going to do anything very differently in prosecuting this war?
Yeah, Jonathan, several prominent Democrats have indicated very recently that they would cut off funding for the troops in Iraq, basically pulling the rug out from under their feet. And that is truly dishonorable. It's defeatist, and it is detrimental to our long-term national security. So I think we need to have responsible dialogue, responsible debate on where to go from here. But cutting off funding is absolutely reckless and short-sighted and is politically motivated.
Abdul Henderson, is that what you expect the Democrats to do?
No, Democrats will not cut funding to troops. What Democrats would actually do with the job of the House of Representatives is supposed to do, which is provide oversight of the executive branch. Americans want answers. I want answers. Veterans of America want answers. They want to know, did the president abuse executive power? Did he violate the Constitution in prosecuting this war? People want to know what happened to the $10 billion that went missing in Iraq. And these are fundamental questions that need to be answered, which the Republican Congress has failed to ask. And so with Democrats controlling the House and the Senate, if possible, you know, we can ask these questions.
Let me ask you both a question about how vets are making up their minds about this election. Are the men and women who served in uniform in Iraq, who had good tours there, who felt that they were accomplishing something, who had personal experience that the war was going well, more likely to vote Republican, and the ones who saw things they didn't expect and didn't like, now more likely to vote Democratic? Does it come down to a man or a woman's own experience on the battlefield and in the streets of Iraq?
Jonathan, I don't think you can simplify it that much. Like I said, I was in Fallujah on my second tour to Iraq. I lost 7 of my men. I saw a lot of action. Over half of my men received Purple Hearts. I've buried over 2 dozen of my friends in this conflict. But I'm not voting for a political party because of that. We need to support policymakers that see Iraq responsibly and offer constructive dialogue. And the Democrats offer nothing. And Abdul's right. Oversight is important, but at the same time, and we need to have oversight, but at the same time, we cannot effectively fight a war looking in the rearview mirror. And I think that's what's going on here. You see a lot of finger-pointing, a lot of blame games. It's typical partisan politics at its worst, when we need to have constructive dialogue.
Even if the Democrats don't take control of both houses, Abdul Henderson, do you think there's a powerful signal to the Republican Party, to the presidency, that because this election has been so dominated by Iraq, the people have spoken no matter who wins?
Well, if the Republicans retain control of the House, one, I would be extremely disappointed, but, people would just vote in the status quo. They don't want answers to the questions that are out there. They want to continue with the failed strategy that is going on in Iraq currently. So basically, a Republican-controlled Congress is not good for the American people, and I believe that America will fix that problem tomorrow.
I disagree with that. The Democrats don't have any plan. They don't have any alternative. And it comes down to no leadership. I think the American people may disagree with the Republicans, but at least they've taken responsibility and have offered alternatives and have offered suggestions. I think there needs to be more done. I think we need 30,000 more troops in Iraq. I think we need a bigger military to face this global threat. But overall, I think the American people, and I think guys against the war, like Abdul and I, agree on one thing. The American people don't really feel this war the way veterans and military families do. They're not invested in it. This war is being fought by less than 1% of the American population, and they're not invested in it. I think,
let me jump in and ask one question to both of you on that very thought, because we are seeing men like yourselves. We're seeing men and women with basically every rank in every branch of the service coming forward, generals getting political and coming out for and against the policy in Iraq. Has the military, have the veterans been politicized by this war as never before? Let's go to Abdul Henderson.
Well, veterans have always been involved politically with wars, but this time, through the execution of this conflict, a lot of the rank and file have been extremely disappointed. They feel that their questions have gone unanswered. They feel that their comments have not been adhered to. And so with more of the rank and file coming out, a lot of lower level troops coming out, as they talked about the editorial earlier, it shows that the strategy that is current is not working. So
Wade Zirkle, we'll give the last word to you.
Yeah, I think the veterans do have a point of view, and I think we deserve to be heard. And I think veterans in this election you've seen have been empowered, I think, and I think that's a good thing. So by and large, I'm glad to see veterans getting out there, getting involved. I agree, we need more veterans in Congress on both sides of the aisle. And I'm glad to see we've got Iraq war veterans, as Republicans, Democrats, and one independent running for Congress this year, and that's certainly reassuring.
Wade Zirkle of Vets for Freedom and Abdul Henderson of Iraq Veterans Against the War, thank you both for being with us.
Thank you, Jonathan.